I noticed her before she ever looked at me, the way some people notice a song they've never heard before, but already know they'll never forget. She was standing by the window of the cafe, sunlight sliding across her collarbone like it had chosen her. A book lay open beside her untouched coffee, and I remember thinking she looked like someone who had once loved reading but hadn't had the time to finish a story in years. When our eyes met, it wasn't cinematic. It was small, a flicker of recognition, like we both realized we were awake in a room full of people still sleeping. I told myself I was only there for the coffee. But I kept finding excuses to return, a forgotten wallet, a late afternoon when I pretended to be working on something important. She always sat at the same table, near the window, wearing that quiet kind of confidence that comes from having survived things no one talks about out loud. "Do you always stare at people this long?" she asked once, voice soft but edged with humor, "or am I special?" Her tone made it sound like a challenge. I should have looked away. Instead, I smiled, the kind that tried to hide nerves and didn't quite succeed. Only when they look like they are waiting for someone. That made her pause. She looked down, tracing the rim of her cup with one finger. A small movement, but it felt heavier than silence. I learned her name later, Elena. It fit her. Elegant but not fragile. She spoke little about herself, and when she did, it was through half-finished sentences, used to paint, before, well, life got in the way. I didn't press. I just listened. There was something magnetic about her calm, the way she looked at things, as if weighing what they used to mean versus what they mean now. I'd talk too much, she'd listen, smiling in that patient, unreadable way adults use when they've seen too many versions of hope. Sometimes our hands would brush when passing the sugar jar or reaching for napkins. Each time, neither of us moved away right away. Just the faint touch, like a secret neither of us had agreed to keep, but both already were. The world around us always seemed louder after those moments. She wore perfume that reminded me of old wood and jasmine, something warm and distant. It lingered even after she left, and I started to notice how much emptier the cafe felt once she was gone. Once it rained, sudden, hard, and impatient. We both reached the door at the same time. She laughed, soft and genuine, pressing a hand to my arm as thunder rolled outside. "You don't mind getting wet, do you?" she asked. "I don't think I'd notice," I said, and she looked at me for a long time, as if deciding whether to step closer or walk away. That look stayed with me all night, the kind that holds back more than it reveals. We never said we'd meet again, but we did. Every few days, without planning it. The cafe became an orbit, and somehow, she was always at the center. There was something different about her that day, her hair slightly damp, eyes red-rimmed as if she hadn't slept. When I asked if she was okay, she smiled a little too quickly. "I'm fine," she said. "You don't have to worry." But her voice cracked just slightly on fine, and I didn't believe her. Before I could say anything, the door behind us opened, the bell above it sharp, almost breaking the moment apart. She looked up at whoever had walked in, and her expression changed, not fear, not surprise, just something unreadable that made her hand tighten around her cup. I didn't know then, but that was the moment everything started to change. The next time I saw her, the cafe was nearly empty, late afternoon, sunlight thinning across the tables. She was sitting alone again, tracing the edge of a newspaper without reading it. When she looked up, there was the smallest lift of her mouth, something like recognition, but softer. I sat across from her without asking. We'd reached that quiet stage where permission wasn't necessary, but assumptions were dangerous. "Rough day?" I asked. Her laugh was small. "Every day's rough in its own way. It's just life reminding you it's still there." She said it lightly, but the way her eyes didn't meet mine made it sound heavier. I learned more about her in fragments, a marriage that ended quietly, no drama, just distance that grew too big to ignore. A daughter in college who called less these days. A house too large for one person. Some nights, she said, stirring her tea though it didn't need stirring, it's like I can hear the quiet breathing beside me. Then I remember I'm alone, and it's just the pipes. I didn't know what to say. 24 doesn't teach you how to respond to that kind of honesty. She looked up then, eyes catching mine. You're young, she said, not cruelly. You should be out there making mistakes, not sitting here listening to mine. I don't think you're a mistake, I said before I could stop myself. That broke something in the air. Her hand froze mid-stir, then lowered the spoon. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You shouldn't say things like that. I know, I whispered. But I didn't take it back. The attraction between us was a quiet current, the kind that hums beneath everything ordinary. I noticed how her voice dropped when she was tired, how her perfume changed slightly when it rained. The way she'd lean in just a little when she laughed, not enough to touch, but close enough to make it hard to breathe. Sometimes, when she reached past me for the sugar, her hand brushed my shoulder, barely, accidentally, but the warmth of it lingered long after she pulled away. She must have noticed too, because her sentences would falter right after, her focus breaking for half a second. She'd clear her throat, change the subject, sip her tea as if the heat could mask the flush on her skin. People would talk, she said once, voice low. If they saw us like this. Like what? I asked. She looked at our hands, hers resting on the table, mine not far from it. The space between them felt louder than the rain outside. Close, she murmured. Neither of us moved for a long moment. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, just charged, like something fragile trying to decide if it should exist. Then she reached for her bag, fingers trembling slightly. I should go, she said, standing up too quickly. But before she turned away, her hand brushed mine again, deliberately this time. Just once, a fleeting press of warmth and hesitation. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't have to. The air already carried it. Along with everything else, we weren't ready to admit. It had been 5 days since she'd last come to the cafe. I tried not to notice, tried not to count, but absence has a way of keeping time all on its own. When she finally appeared, it was raining again, her coat damp, hair clinging to her cheek. She looked tired, beautiful in that quiet, disheveled way that made something inside me ache. You disappeared, I said, standing as she approached. I needed to clear my head, she murmured, shrugging off her coat. Didn't work. We sat at our usual table. The window fogged beside us, blurring the street beyond, a small world built just for two people trying too hard not to want what they wanted. Our conversation drifted, light and uneven. She told me about a gallery opening she didn't go to, a painting she'd started and abandoned. I told her about work, the kind of small frustrations that didn't matter. Between words, silence threaded through, heavy, close. Then her phone buzzed on the table. A name flashed across the screen, Daniel. Her expression tightened. She turned the phone face down. Friend? I asked. Ex-husband, she said. A pause. He still calls sometimes when he forgets he's not supposed to. I nodded, unsure if she noticed how my chest had tightened. When she finally looked back at me, her eyes softened. Don't, she whispered. Don't what? Feel sorry for me. I don't. Her breath hitched slightly, not belief, not disbelief, just a reaction she couldn't hide. The cafe was nearly empty now. The barista was wiping down counters, music low, lights dimmed. She shifted closer to hear me over the soft hum. Her knee brushed mine beneath the table. Neither of us moved away. You make this feel, she began, then trailed off. Like what? I asked. Dangerous. The word hung between us like static. I leaned in, just enough to see the tiny flecks of gold in her eyes. Her fingers were resting near her cup, and mine found the edge of the saucer, not touching, but close enough that the air itself seemed to hum. A heartbeat. Another. Then, a voice broke the spell. Elena? A woman stood by the counter, umbrella dripping onto the floor. I didn't recognize her, but Elena did, her spine straightened, smile too quick, too bright. Hi, Elena said. Didn't expect to see you here. They exchanged polite words, the kind people use to cover panic. I pretended to scroll through my phone, pulse too loud in my ears. When the woman finally left, Elena exhaled, shoulders sagging. That's a friend from work, she said quietly. She'll ask questions. I reached out before I could stop myself, my hand brushing hers, a small, reckless touch meant to say it's okay. Her fingers tightened around mine for a fraction of a second, as if she wanted to believe it. Then she looked up, eyes glassy, searching. This is going to hurt someone, she whispered. Maybe, I said. But not tonight. The rain outside thickened, tapping against the glass like it wanted in. We stayed there, hands half-linked, breath close, silence trembling between us, too far from safety, too close to turn back. She stopped coming after that night. Days turned into a week. Then 2. The space she left behind filled everything, the chair she used to sit in, the air near the window, the silence between conversations. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't at the cafe. She was outside the small art gallery on Elm, standing under a streetlight, the glow catching the rain in her hair. She looked surprised to see me, not unhappy, just startled, as if she'd been caught thinking about me when she shouldn't have been. I thought you'd forgotten this place, I said, stepping closer. I thought I should, she replied. There was no one else around. Just the soft murmur of rain and the faint hum of jazz spilling from the gallery door. Her coat was unbuttoned, and she was holding a folded umbrella she hadn't bothered to open. You've been avoiding me, I said. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came. Then, quietly, I had to. You make me forget how old I am. Something in the way she said it, small, almost ashamed, made me step closer until the distance between us was barely a breath. I don't see you as old, I said. I just see you. She gave a small laugh that didn't reach her eyes. You don't understand what that means for me. I'm trying to. Her hand trembled slightly as she brushed wet hair from her cheek. I caught her wrist without thinking, fingers closing around her warmth. She didn't pull away. For a long moment, we just stood there, her pulse fluttering beneath my thumb, her breath quick and shallow. The world outside seemed to fold in on itself, just the sound of rain, the streetlight haloing her, and the space between our words collapsing. Tell me to stop, I whispered. She shook her head slowly. That's the problem. I moved closer. The scent of her perfume mixed with rain, jasmine and something deeper, like cedar. My hand found her face, thumb tracing the line of her jaw. She leaned into the touch before she realized she had. People will talk, she murmured, but her voice lacked conviction now. I don't care. You will. Her words trembled, but she didn't step back. Her gaze flicked between my mouth and my eyes, once, twice, like she was measuring the cost of what would happen next. You think this is simple, she whispered. It isn't. I never said it was. She exhaled shakily, and for a heartbeat, the world went still, her breath on my neck, her hand clutching the fabric of my sleeve, both of us caught in the gravity of something neither could name. Then, from behind the gallery door, a voice called her name. She froze. I stepped back, her warmth still clinging to my skin. Elena, the voice repeated, male, familiar, close. Her eyes darted toward the sound, then back to me. You should go, she whispered. I don't want to. Please. It wasn't anger in her tone, it was desperation. The door opened. Light spilled out. We stood there, one breath, 1 second away from something that could have changed everything. And then she turned, walking toward the voice, leaving the air between us trembling with everything we hadn't dared to do. I didn't see her again for a while. The night at the gallery had cracked something open between us, too quietly to shatter, but deep enough that I could feel the split every time I tried not to think about her. Then, one morning, she called. Her voice on the phone was soft, deliberate. "Can we talk?" She chose a park this time, somewhere open, neutral, where we couldn't hide behind tables or lamplight. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench beneath a sycamore, sunlight threading through the leaves and scattering across her face. "You look different," I said. "Do I?" "Like you haven't slept," I murmured. She smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. "Someone came by my office," she said. "The woman from the cafe." She asked if I was seeing someone. My stomach tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That she was mistaken." The words hit harder than I expected. I looked away, jaw tense, unsure if the sting I felt was anger or something smaller and meaner, disappointment. I didn't know what else to say, she continued, voice low. "If people find out?" "I don't care what people think." "Well, I do," she snapped, then closed her eyes, rubbing her temples. God, I shouldn't have said that. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air was too bright, the sounds of the city too normal for how uneven everything felt inside me. Finally, she sighed. "Daniel, my ex," he called again. He said he saw me that night outside the gallery. The world tilted. He saw us. Her silence was the answer. I stepped closer, my pulse loud in my throat. "What did you tell him?" "That it wasn't what it looked like." I laughed, sharp, humorless. "And what was it?" Her eyes met mine. "It was a mistake." The word hung in the air, heavy, cruel in its honesty. But even as she said it, her voice cracked. Her fingers twisted in her lap, restless, betraying her. "Don't," I whispered. "Don't call it that if you don't mean it." "I don't know what I mean," she said, standing up too quickly. "I just know I can't keep pretending it's harmless." The distance between us was small, a few feet of grass, a handful of heartbeats, but it felt like a wall. I stepped closer anyway, until her breath brushed my chin. "You think I'm playing with this?" I asked. She shook her head, eyes bright with something raw. "No. That's what scares me." I reached out, my fingers grazing her wrist. She didn't move. The sunlight caught the small tremor that ran through her as she whispered, "We can't keep doing this." "Then tell me to stop," I said, echoing the night outside the gallery. She stared up at me, mouth trembling, eyes wide, and for a moment, I thought she might. But instead, she whispered, barely audible, "I don't want to." Her phone buzzed again, loud, sharp, breaking the air apart. She stepped back as if waking from something dangerous. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, the sound of her name still burning in my throat. The night she finally let me in wasn't planned. Rain again, it always seemed to find us. She'd left her umbrella at the cafe, and when I offered to bring it by, she didn't say no. Her house was quiet, dimly lit, half lived in, like she'd never fully decided to stay. Canvases leaned against walls, unfinished, faces blurred and half erased. It smelled faintly of turpentine and the ghost of her perfume. "Thank you," she said, taking the umbrella but not moving away. She looked tired, softer somehow. "You shouldn't have come." "You knew I would," I said. Her eyes closed for a moment, and I could see it, the war inside her, the wanting and the fear tangled so tightly neither could breathe. "Do you ever think about what happens if we don't stop?" she asked, voice barely more than air. "All the time." "And?" I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking until her breath brushed my collar. And I don't care anymore. That broke something. She exhaled, shaky, eyes flicking to my mouth, then away. You should, she whispered. You'll regret this someday. Maybe, I said. But not tonight. Her hands trembled as she tried to tuck her hair behind her ear. I reached up and did it for her, slow, careful. My fingers brushed her skin, and the smallest sound escaped her throat, not quite a word, not quite a sigh. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she stepped forward, not enough to close the distance, just enough to make the air between us electric. You think you're saving me, she said quietly. But maybe you're just making me remember what it felt like to want something I can't have. I'm not saving you, I said. I'm just here. She laughed, but it broke halfway through. You shouldn't be. Tell me to go, then. She didn't. Instead, her hand found mine, tentative, almost apologetic. Her fingers slipped between mine, and I could feel the pulse in her wrist, uneven and fast. This isn't fair, she whispered. I know. Her forehead rested against mine, both of us breathing too close, too shallow. Every heartbeat felt like a decision. Say something, I murmured. I can't. And for a moment, one fragile, trembling moment, I thought she'd pull away. But she didn't. Her hand slid up to my chest, stopping over my heart, as if confirming it was real. You make me feel alive again, she said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. Then don't let go, I said. Her eyes lifted to mine, and there, in that suspended second before everything could break, we understood. It wasn't about age or fear, or what the world might say. It was about two people who had found each other at the wrong time, and loved anyway. The clock ticked softly in the background, marking the moment as if to warn us that it wouldn't last. But she didn't move. Neither did I. For the first time, neither of us looked away. Morning came quietly. The rain had stopped sometime in the night, leaving the world washed and fragile, as if it, too, had been holding its breath. She stood by the window again, the same way she had the first day I saw her, only now, she wasn't hiding behind the glass. The early light traced her face, softening everything that had once looked guarded. When she turned, there was no shock, no pretense. Just a calm, tired honesty that made my chest ache. I didn't think you'd stay, she said. I didn't think I'd be able to leave, I answered. A small smile tugged at her lips. You're too young to talk like that. And you're too stubborn to believe me. She laughed quietly, shaking her head, but she didn't look away. There was no distance left to protect. Just the faint hum of something fragile, but real between us. I walked closer. Her hand was resting on the edge of the table, fingertips brushing the wood. I placed mine over hers, not to claim, just to anchor. Her fingers turned beneath mine and laced together easily, like they'd always meant to. For a while, we said nothing. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was full, of everything we'd survived saying and everything we didn't need to explain. You know this won't be simple, she murmured finally. I know, I said. But simple never mattered to me. She looked down, her thumb tracing a small circle against my palm, a nervous habit, or maybe just a reminder that she was still here. People will talk, she said again, softer this time. Then let them. Her eyes lifted, cautious, searching. You'll change your mind one day. Maybe, I said. But I'll never regret this. That made her still. Then, slowly, she leaned forward, resting her forehead against mine. Her breath was warm, steady. You have no idea what you've done to me, she whispered. I smiled, closing the small space that had always seemed impossible. I think I do. We stayed like that, no grand declarations, no dramatic music, just the sound of the city waking up and the slow rhythm of two people finally exhaling. When she finally looked up, her eyes weren't afraid anymore. "I don't know what happens next," she said. "Then we'll find out together." Her hand rose to my cheek, thumb brushing the corner of my mouth, tender, uncertain, real. Then she kissed me, not the reckless kind that burns fast and fades, but the quiet kind that feels like coming home. Outside, sunlight poured through the window, catching the raindrops still clinging to the glass. It painted her skin in gold, and for once, she didn't turn away from the light. I held her there, in that soft morning stillness, and thought, maybe this is what it means to be found. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?